Hello, hello. So welcome. My name is Erin Raethke and I am joined by the wonderful, creative, talented Ben Eyles. How are you, Ben?
Aaron, I'm just so excited to be here. It's Sunday night. Where else would you want to be? But
I
other
know,
than
right? And why would
on our this new show, how good is
I
it?
know, it is so good. And I would just like to open up by thanking you for helping me get this back up and running because did a couple of little episodes a couple of years back, and then the overwhelming life experience it is making a tiny person just kind of made everything have a different priority, and I haven't gotten
Yep,
back to it. And you approached me and said, we should do a thing. And I'm like, I have some templates. Let's do a thing.
it's just all built, ready to go, and I um I couldn't believe it. I was like, we should do something and build it from the ground up, and you're like, we just need someone to push us to turn up. It's all done. It's amazing. You've
Yes,
done
it
an
is.
incredible
It's
amount of
good to
work.
have someone to help you be accountable to actually show up as well. It's the same with exercise. I work much better when someone can go, are you coming?
Yeah. I don't know a lot about exercise, but I hear that's the thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. You
yeah.
need to.
Well, we're going to be
Yeah.
exercising our minds this evening because we
Oof.
have a new format that we're trying out, right? Obviously, I
Yeah.
have you joining me, so we've got a nice balance of different kind of creativity that we do. I live much more in sort of like the video explainer, professional development space in my day-to-day work. And you are also in the creative space, but you have a slightly different focus, don't you?
Yeah. So I started in newspapers and as a photographer and writer then photographer. Don't matter. Then I ended up teaching photography, then getting involved with classroom tech, and then getting involved in now I'm sort of building resources for teachers
Yeah.
back in tertiary stuff. So it's a weird career, but it's all sort of hunkered around building stuff with a camera, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, building stuff for teachers is really interesting because you have to think about the teachers and what they might need, what they might look for, how they might look for it, and then also what they might need to look for on behalf of students, and then how their students might ask them for it. And there's so much like metacognition involved in planning for professional development and resources for students that it's a very it's you spend so much time thinking about thinking and then trying to guess how
Yeah.
other people are going to think about things. It's
Yeah.
very weird. It's a weird job. It's great, but it's a weird job.
Oh, totally. And also it's about getting teachers back into to switch their creative brain on because they've got so much day-to-day stuff and compliancy stuff or just classroom
Mm,
stuff or staff room stuff. They're like,
grading,
you just
keeping up with AI changes, and all
yeah.
of
And
the
it's
stuff
like
that goes along with the admin.
you're
Yeah.
just kind of making them a little safe spot to come in and play, and we'll look after you. We make sure you look good and there's nothing in your teeth, and we can just download your brain onto
Mhm.
tape, and
Yeah.
everyone's gonna love it. Yeah,
And especially being a bouncy Labrador personality, which is sort of what I'd like to bounce into a room and go, hey, I've got something really exciting to share. And you definitely want to sort of like try to match the energy of the room and build that energy up to be something really positive. And when people that you work with have got a lot on their mind, it's kind of hard to get excited about PD sometimes. So I guess the point of what we're going to be doing in these episodes is we're going to be distilling a couple of like interesting little things that we've found out about in like the tech or the education space or the edutech space, or just like really cool creative stuff that's been going on in the world, so that you can have just like a little interesting topical bite of what we make of that, and go and do some investigating on your own. And then
yeah.
also, Ben and I are each going to be doing a little bit of a skill share, trying to give you something that's either really cool, that we're really excited and geeking out about, or that's immediately applicable in different contexts, so that you can take a little bit of a skill or maybe get a little bit of an intro to something that you've been thinking about trying, but just like getting started has been a little bit too intimidating, and we're going to give you a taste test of that, and then you can obviously reach out to us if there's anything that you would like to see more of, or do a workshop on, because we are pretty heavily involved with a couple of different like avenues of sharing our skills out there in the greater world with all of the good people who want to create, share, and learn. Show tie back to the net.
Mate, the segues are on point with you. I love it.
Yeah, I had a lot of practice with Tim from Adobe. So
yes, nice.
So I guess what we'll do is just quickly show off the very rapidly made little news segment that we'd like to call originally News.
That's awesome.
News.
Nice.
Which you might have also noticed I made so quickly, I didn't check the aspect ratio, so it's like showing the bars down the sides. I will totally cop to that. We might actually even show how to change that in a future episode.
I think all our mistakes we should fix live. I like
absolutely.
that idea of
Unless we want to play like peekaboo on the edges. Where are my fingers?
Yeah.
There they are. Woo!
Nice.
But it's all good. So in news in the last week or so, my share for this week is that Moby has released 500 new tracks to his catalog called Moby Gratis. Now, interestingly, when I did originally try to go to his website, it had crashed because of the sheer volume of traffic that it had received, because he went on the social medias and said that he did free things. So people went, oh, gimme, 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 and crashed his website. And then when I went to go onto it today, my virus protection of choice came up with a big old fat warning saying that it did not like how suspicious Moby's site looked. So to try to prevent any sort of interesting cookies, because, you know, he's been very public and in putting this free download this stuff from my website thing up, which in this day and age, whenever you say I have a website that I'm encouraging people to download stuff from for free, does make you a bit of a target for hacking, malicious actors trying to use your website to do dodgy stuff to people's computers. So I opened up his website, but I did it in an incognito tab just to try to minimize the amount of cookies and stuff that would be actually sitting on my device. And the virus protection let me open it up. So that is just a nice little disclaimer that if you open it up on your device and it goes, warning, warning, you do not have to click through. But it's an interesting thing because there's a lot of things that are offered for free on the internet nowadays, which is fine. But if you're looking
there's still nice people out there, but yeah.
Like I put free things up on YouTube, and sure, you have to watch ads if you don't pay money for stuff, but I'm not charging you money for that, right? So this person has put this stuff up, 500 tracks, lots of different search options there, lots of different genres, lots of different moods that you can go through. Now, when you are a student and you are making your own content, it is like incredibly vital for you to be able to access content that is you don't have to outlay money for initially, especially when you're learning. If you're on if you're a student and you're working on a school-based computer, you obviously may have access to the computer itself, but you may not have like amazing amounts of resources to be able to put towards projects that you're working on, especially as a multimedia student. So it's important to sort of be aware of these resources as they come available. There is also, I will mention, a support section on Moby Gratis where he does talk about the restrictions on how you can use the stuff. Because of his particular personal values, he does not he says that you specifically cannot use any of his stuff to promote right-wing politics, meat, dairy, or other animal products, because he's very famously vegan, or for any purposes that violate the licensing terms. Now, I do encourage you to go in and have a bit of a look at those prohibited uses, crediting and attribution style things, because it's very, very important that you understand when you use things that are free from online, that usually there are some strings attached. There is no such thing as completely free. Usually the licensing basis is something around the lines of, if you're planning on going viral with this, anything that's more than 10,000 streams or 50,000 views or 100,000 views, it will be in the terms and conditions. This is by no means the only free music website. There are many, many, many out there. I know one reputable one happens to be Artlist, that you can get royalty-free music for your videos. And that's another alternative if your personal virus protection telling you about Moby really freaks you out. You don't want to open that site. Completely fair. Artlist, I have never had that problem with. And you certainly can get a paid account as well as signing in and getting royalty-free music for your videos. And they do have a lot of tools in here that do have a lot of options for the creative who is looking to assemble either their portfolio or an assignment or maybe a larger project, either for a not-for-profit or for their own personal brand building on a budget.
Nailed it. Good stuff. Maybe has his moments, and that was a nice thing.
Yeah, like anyone that's been in the public eye for long enough is going to have like a few moments where you're like, but all of that aside, I am commenting on this particular news item, and I think it is good for people to share things with people, but I think it's also a really good idea for you to understand what the limitations of the usage are of that particular product.
That is super fair. Read the terms, enjoy the stuff, and don't push it too far, because you don't want to wreck it for everyone else.
And plus, I could go on and on about getting into the weeds and reading the licensing terms and terms of usage pages on websites. I have sent many a colleague to sleep getting really excited about explaining this particular clause where you can use this but not this, and they just sort of look at me. But it's it's interesting and it's valuable. Just because it's important doesn't mean that it's exciting for everyone.
That's a great spot to dwell on. That's awesome. Nice.
So Ben, you have a share.
I do. Let me just fire up this button and look, I'm having a bit of an Adobe day today, so everything's going to be Adobe. Well, I like the stuff. I have friends in the stuff. It's the thing. But I woke up this morning to an email. I didn't wake up to the email. I woke up, had my breakfast, checked my emails, and it said this, which is basically to inform you that as someone who has used Adobe stock, I don't currently have any credit in it because it's kind of expensive, but the more the pay, the more you can use it, kind of thing. But I've purchased a few songs in the past, and Epidemic Sound is leaving the Adobe stock library. It's doing it kind of quickly. It's doing it by Star Wars Day, by May the 4th. So make sure, basically the other part of the email is if you like those songs, if you still want to use those songs, make sure you download them by Sunday. Now, this email's gone out around the world and lots of people are talking about it, and they're all sort of talking about Sunday, May the 4th. So I don't quite know how that works. The gist is pop in and download the stuff. And I sort of think that that's good practice for most stock stuff anyway. You never know how long this stuff's going to last. Even software you buy, keep a copy of it somewhere because it's yours and stuff. And you're not.
Can you even buy software anymore? Well, really? Nowadays?
There's a couple of ones. Like I bought software. I know it's pretty niche. Anyway, I won't get into it. That's another one for another day. But yes, you can. And I always think you should zip it up and store it somewhere. But Adobe stock, just check it out. It's not that hard to find out if you have bought songs or licensed songs from Epidemic Sound via Adobe stock. I went up and fired up my Creative Cloud app. Let me see if I can bring it up to this screen. Here it is. That's working there. And down here on the side, it says Adobe stock, your licensed assets. Keep in mind, I'm on the home tab here. If you're on another tab, it might be a little bit different. I tapped on that. It fired up the website. This is all still going live. That's good. And in the license history, when it loads up, you can kind of get a sense for where it comes from based off either one of these fields. A lot of my stuff comes out of my Adobe Express plan. You can see that. But if I went to, say, page 12, which is kind of a bit of a long time ago, you can see here that there's a couple of songs. I bought a song, and the author is someone/Epidemic Sound. And that is one I'd want to download now before Sunday, just to make sure I've got it forever.
So if you go into your search bar at the top center of the screen and you type in Epidemic, does it actually bring up those particular line items for you, or does it have to? Oh, so it might only do it for like the actual artist. Like it only searches the artist. Oh, that's a bummer, because then you have to go around the long way.
Well, look, it was a little bit painful, but it wasn't like crazy painful. Like it took me, I had my cereal, read the email, and then by the time I fired up my cup of tea and went through my 12 pages looking for stuff that had an author as Epidemic Sound, I was done. So for me, it wasn't that big a job. It'll be a different size job for everyone else. It kind of is what it is. All I can say is if you're attached to a couple of these songs, and I've got one that I use for my Christmas time lapse every year. I couldn't live without that. Imagine December without that. So I downloaded it, and now I've got it forever, and that's a good thing.
It is a good thing. And that's the as you said, like you really do have to be very, very careful about getting emotionally attached to something just sitting in your licensing library. It's the same with any kind of streaming service or anything that's stored in the cloud. Like titles get taken on and off of streaming services all the time, even ones that you have separately paid money for, as I have discovered in the past on some platforms that will remain specifically nameless. You go into open something up and you're like, it's gone, and you find out that companies amalgamated and then they've taken a version down and written it off or whatever, and you're like,
it's kind of a very polite Wild West we live in when it comes to that kind of thing. I had a buddy, I'm not going to name them because they love Fast and Furious movies, so they got onto Netflix because that was where they could find all of them at the drop of a hat. And then that changed over time, and as did their love of Netflix. It's a fluid thing.
It is.
And all I can do with this particular fluid thing is get you in through that section and look for these and hit that download button and then store them somewhere you're going to remember it. Yeah. That's me for my news.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you very much. And I learned a thing because I go through a different way usually to check like back through my stock history if I'm searching for something and I can't remember what it was titled or what the creator was or when I used it. Because my lessons history on this account is 14 pages long. That is because sometimes I get a little bit click happy with some of the free assets in Adobe stock when I'm working on stuff.
Yeah,
and that is another Skillshare for another time.
Absolutely.
So speaking of Skillshares, before I forget again, I'm just going to add in some of your deets on our little ticker. So if there's anything that we've been talking about that you are particularly keen to learn from Ben more about, he has his Instagram and his website right there that is going across the bottom of the screen for you.
Thank you.
That is all good. And if we just quickly take your banner down, we will use that segue talking about how you can find out more from Ben. By finding out more from Ben when he does the first inaugural presentation of a new segment that we've just made the banner for that we have titled That's Neat.
Neat. I love it. I
Neat.
wasn't nervous till you introed it like that. Now I am absolutely dropping
You're
bricks. It's all
killing
right.
it. You're killing it. So I'm just going to change our little layout there to
Yeah,
give
nice.
your screen the most real estate possible. And I'm going to hand the stage over to you, Ben.
Sweet. So I'm in an application here called Adobe Bridge. Like I said, I'm having a very an Adobe day, but this is a problem. You know, like sometimes you feel like AI is solving the wrong kind of problem. You're like, I really want AI to fix things like do the dishes for me and make my bed. And instead, it's just taking away some of the fun jobs. But this is a job that I think they've got right. And this is a problem that has plagued, you know, whether you're a photographer who's dealing with glasses and reflections, this whole reflection problem has always been the thing of, can we try and get a photo without reflections? If so, are the reflections they're going to ruin the photo? Like reflections keep us up at night and stress us out. But there's been a cool thing done in some Adobe apps. Most of the time, everything in Lightroom is the same as in Camera Raw, and you can find it in Photoshop. At the moment, this reflection stuff I'm about to show you, you can't find it in Lightroom yet. If you're watching this 3 or 4 weeks down the road or a couple of months, it'll probably be there. But it's not there yet. So for now, remember Camera Raw, remember Photoshop, and you'll be fine. But what we're going to do, we're going to be a bit ambitious here, and we're going to try and reduce or remove the reflections in these photos. And usually that was a stressful kind of thing. I'm going to jump to Photoshop where I've got these photos opened up, and I've also duplicated the layers down here. So just so we can do a quick before and after. Now, the trick to this is to jump into the filter menu and look for the Camera Raw filter. If you're in Photoshop, that's mad. Just go there. Filter menu, Camera Raw filter. If you're in Bridge, if it's a RAW file, you might find yourself in a section called Camera Raw. If that makes sense to you, that's awesome. You can use that as well. Let's fire up the Camera Raw filter. And the Camera Raw filter is basically Lightroom in a can inside Photoshop. I'm explaining that very, very simply. You can also use Camera Raw separate in a whole other way. But once you're here, yes, we can do all sorts of amazing image editing things. I love Camera Raw. It's really, really cool. We're just going to focus on this little button here, which looks like it's actually called the remove button. Kind of looks like an eraser. And then once you go in here, just try not to be distracted by all these cool tools. Stay with me. Come down here to the reflection section. Open that up. And then we've got a couple of qualities we can choose from. Because we're on the clock, because we've got TV happening, I'm going to choose just preview. But if you go on big for print or something special, you can select more quality options. Let's hit apply and let's watch. It's going to take 9 seconds. That's okay. Just look into my eyes. There we go.
9 real seconds, though. It wasn't like 9 seconds. It was actually 40 seconds. So that's amazing.
Yeah. So if you have a look at that, what you can kind of see there is the reflection has kind of jumped away. We'll do the before. We'll do the after. It's done some stuff with color. It's done some, you know, we could take this photo further. That's a pretty good start though. And it's got a slider too. So say if we wanted to reduce the reflection, but leave a bit there, that's a nice place we could be. It also does this thing. It kind of creates, like, if you imagine that's the image, but there's also the, how does it remove the reflection? Well, it kind of creates the reflection. And if you pull your slider into the negative, you kind of get to see the reflection that Camera Raw, like Adobe, Photoshop, that it's kind of basing it off. So there's some super interesting stuff you can do here. But the gist of it is come in, hit remove, hit apply, wait for it, and give it a good look there. So if we hit OK, that's our before and after right there. What do you think, Erin?
I think it reminds me of basically the reverse of, like the detective procedurals where they're like, enhance that
Yeah,
image, go in and have a look at that. We
yeah,
need to figure out where the victim is based on the
that's it.
reflection. And because you can actually get a pretty good outline of the building facade when you
Yeah,
pulled the bar all the way across. So technically, you could figure out, or at least use even like Google image search nowadays, you could technically even figure out where that image was taken.
interesting.
And it's
Yeah,
interesting that you talk about reflections as well, because that is actually something that has come up um, before on people streaming with like super high definition YouTube, like super high definition cameras and stuff, and that wear glasses, is that if they have multiple monitors going and like people in
yeah,
Teams meetings and stuff, their bosses can actually see that they're like on Facebook
yeah.
during like their professional reviews or really important meetings because the reflection in their glasses. That is actually not why I stopped wearing glasses. Like having a kid has temporarily changed my eyes a little bit, so I don't have to wear them at the moment. But
That's cool. That's worth it.
yeah,
Yeah.
you get some vision back, but get no sleep. Woo! But yeah, no, it's
You're
really
all the
really
time in the
cool
world
to.
to read. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, right? To be able to pull it back so that you could actually like see more of the reflection versus less of the reflection is really cool as well. Because technically, you
Yeah.
could do something artistic with that as well.
Totally. Well, this one here, we'll see how this goes because there's a lot going on. And you can see here it hasn't quite been able to do everything,
It's
but
done
it's
all
done
right
a lot.
though.
Yeah. But see, sometimes it's not about removing the reflection because it's about just softening it. So if I were to take that, now I've got those two layers, we can do some pretty old school Photoshop here. And I'm gonna put on a layer mask, take a black brush, and we could just paint in the stuff that makes it look like a window. We want that.
Because it gives it a
But
sense of place as well when there's the window frame in place there.
yeah, totally. And pretty quickly we can like that's probably, we could spend a bit more time on that, but that's a pretty huge improvement. We've lost the check shirt, the flannel man from the subject. It's just a bit cleaner with it.
Yeah.
It's a nice thing. Again, this one, if you can indulge me, this stuff's horrible when you get on a reflection and it changes someone's color.
Yeah, it really washes out. Like it almost looks like he's wearing like a gauzy balaclava thing that kind of just obscures his features.
Now we'll do a quick one on this, and we'll see how we go.
Because it is getting smarter at interpreting. See, that's pretty good.
I mean, look,
Not
we could.
perfect, it's pretty good.
No, and what I'll tell you a few things about that. That's pretty good. We could noodle that. We could get a bit of warmth going on in there. We could convert it to black and white, and no one's probably going to know. We could do. Look at that. The other thing, this tool the reason why I haven't gone harder on this earlier is one, because I didn't have a platform, but I do now with you, Erin. And two, for a long time, for the last sort of when did it come out? From when it came out, you could only do it with raw photos. So those photos you shot intentionally in your camera at the highest, rates of information.
With the equipment that's capable of doing RAW as well, because that's another big thing.
Yeah. So it just didn't have that incidental. I was like, oh, that is cool and amazing, but I've got to go back and find the raw photo but now with the last Photoshop update in the last week or so, they've brought JPEGs in on the party, and that's making it a lot more fun to use. That said, if I had a raw copy of this photo, I'd probably, I think I'd probably get a better result out of it. And just a note on where these photos came from. These are all photos I got from Adobe Stock out via Adobe Express. I just searched for reflections and people, and these were some of the ones I came up with. So that's my neat trick for the week.
Yeah, that is very, very neat. And I definitely need to go and have a bit of a play with Photoshop more, because using, like, that's actually how I started. One of the first Adobe products I used was a Photoshop Elements that came
Yeah.
free with my laptop back, I want to say 14 years ago.
Nice.
14, 13 years ago.
But,
Speaking of things that you, sorry, yeah.
I was just going to say, it makes sense. Photoshop was so many people's first app. It's over 35 years old. Like, it's just it's a fixture. Like, it is.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a thing. Erin.
Yeah, it is really good though, because like you start working in it, but then obviously if you don't have, as you said, the use case to keep using it for a specific purpose, then you kind of fall out of utilizing it as much as you might like to be. So whereas I've very much moved into like the moving media sphere with doing like the explainer videos and the, you know, procedurals, the how-to guides, the, you know, student videos. So I usually only am using still images now in the context of somehow integrating that into a larger video. And even then, I usually much prefer showing actual video footage in video than having a still image, because I feel that's very slide decky.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with a slide deck, but we also get a lot of them working in professional development spaces.
And people go to sleep. There's nothing wrong with a slide deck.
Yes, a static screen gives people the opportunity for their attention to wander.
My shocking thing is I will shoehorn just about anything, because you can open videos in Photoshop and you can do a lot. And I'm often like you can replace, I'm doing a lot of Photoshoppy things to edit my videos just because it makes sense for me. Like, I'm not very good at color grading a video in, you know, video software in Premiere or Final Cut or whatever. I struggle. I'll often bring the video into Photoshop where I know my layers, where I can, you know, put it in as a, and it's just, it's nice.
And then maybe that's a share I can do in the future then, because I've been playing, like intentionally forcing myself into using the tools that are in Premiere Pro rather than going outside and then back in. And yeah, some of the where the tools are, the submenus where they're kept and how they're organized is not how my brain would organize them. So I've been learning how to play with the color saturations and everything, and where those different tools are discreetly, where they're packaged in those menus. And I very rarely, like when it comes to color correcting or changing the color spectrum on stock footage in such a way that it actually unifies it across the video. Like if I'm making a video with, like, say, for instance, a color theme, because Harmony Day that was recently on. So everything was very warms, yellows, oranges, but then I've got a piece of stock footage that I've got that has like the perfect content, but it's very green. Thematically, then I'll like very, very discreetly color correct and change the background color to be more in that line with that yellow and orange, and can do that all within that program, but only because I've pushed myself to learn how to do it, because also I don't have Photoshop as my hammer. So I am not accustomed to using it. So I'm like, well, I have to figure out how to do it in Premiere.
Well, and like one of the cheapest plans you can get is the photography plan from Adobe. Like, it's remarkably a lot cheaper than a lot of the others. And that made a real difference for some of the photographers I taught. So if you need a little bit of photo editing, and another $30 a month for another app just wasn't on the table.
Absolutely.
Photoshop's not ideal, but we can do it. Yeah,
and that's the thing. Like, no one product is going to have a solution for every single person's situation. And that's why, like with this show, like obviously we work in the Adobe space a lot because that's what we have licenses for. That's what we have access to. But there's also some really great software that's out there that I use in conjunction with a lot of that stuff that I'm like so keen to share with everyone. But we only have so much time that we can spend nerding out about things that we love in each episode. So what I was thinking was you've gone into Photoshop, which is obviously like a really great app that is really like has really good widespread use. So I figured I would complement your share with something that is available to anybody to use for an activity that they can use for next weekend, being Mother's Day, even if they don't have a paid subscription. I know, right? It comes around.
It's all. How many more sleeps till Mother's Day?
Sleep? What's that when you're a mother?
I just always think of that meme about, it's like if it's 4 days till Christmas Eve, it's 4 days till Dad starts shopping. So, anyway.
Or when you have a newborn, it is one sleep to your birthday, and your birthday is in 3.5 months.
That's not funny, Erin.
No, that's not funny. But yes, so easy, quick, and most of all, free shares. Now,
Nice.
I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to pop it on the stage right now. This is Adobe Express. You will see this shared a lot. If you were to ever attend any professional development events that Adobe hold, they do have them really regularly. They do put a lot of stuff into Express just because it is fairly accessible to most teachers and a lot of educational institutions. Not all, but a lot of them for K-12 do have access for the students as well to this particular product. That being said, it is available through what I describe as a freemium license, which means like not all things are not free. It is a premium. Things are not available to you in apps under a free plan. That's just pretty standard nowadays. There's no such thing as a free app on the App Store. There's always added purchases. Adobe Express is no different, but what I'm going to be showing you today is something that you can do with a license that you pay for. But you could also do the same thing with a free version that you just sign in using your email address, sign up, and start a new project.
Absolutely.
Without further ado, I'm just going to show you how to make this is applicable to any event, mind you, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a really super easy project that is in a document format that is A4 portrait, because we are in the Australian Southern Hemisphere and we do love our A4s versus letter as our chosen dimensions.
That's
and
it.
I'm going to sorry,
I don't want to learn another dimension. 297 by 210. That's enough for me.
Yes, and if you fold it in half, it is exactly half in the A3 and A2. It is just, it is pleasing. But yes, we're not going to get into that level of nerdiness. Maybe that can be our new share on a future episode. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an activity sheet for Mother's Day. Now, what do you think of when you think of Mother's Day? It's like, what do you think of when you think of Easter? For a lot of people, it may be a religious holiday. For other people, it may be chocolate and bunnies and flowers. And Mother's Day is one of those, I guess, celebrations that usually comes along with the idea of flowers, right? So if you are interested in making handouts for students or for your organization, where you have simple shapes that you can then redesign either by physically printing them and cutting them out and gluing them like in a tactile way, or if you're planning on using shapes to create something, then this activity is for you. Now, I've got my A4 template. I'm going to quickly name it something meaningful. So I'm going to call it Mother's Day Activity Example, because then that way I don't end up with an unnecessarily gigantic amount of projects in my personal folder that are all named Untitled with a date stamp after them. So, which happens to us all. We get a bit carried away with the project. We don't rename it. So now I've got my blank project and I'm going to add some text. That text is going to say, make your own flower.
Ooh.
So I am going to, come on, Bobby. There we go. It did not like me for just a little second there. And I'm going to add some more text and it's going to say Mother's Day 2025. Now I'm going to get really tricky with that. So we've got the open title and we've got the subtitle, right? So I'm going to go to this text layout button right here with the Mother's Day text that I have got there. And I'm going to turn it into an arch. Oh, so lovely. I'm going to grab that little grabber and I'm going to change the dimensions on this. And now I can just move this around and change the sizing a little bit until I've got the top of my handout. If I decide that that's taking up way too much space, I can, of course, just make it dynamic and give it a little bit of an adjustment and get it to where I want to get it there. Now, this is like the most basic kind of start. Like, you don't have to get too crazy. Let's not linger, because what we're actually concentrating on is not the text itself or how you can add in different effects to make it pop. There is that lovely lemon background we were talking about before.
Well, everything starts with lemon.
Yeah, everything is lemon right now. Why does it doing this? So we've got our text. You can change some settings, right, to make your title pop a little bit. But what I want to do is I want to actually create some cutoutable elements. Yes, I did study English in my university degree. The cutoutable is absolutely totally.
It's my influence on you. It's my influence. Yeah, I apologize.
Oh, I know. I was getting very fancy free with the English language well before I met you, Ben. It's all good. So what I'm going to do
is an evolving language. It's a thing.
It is. It is. All words are made up.
It's a living language.
All words are made up. So if you're making up words, you are carrying on a proud tradition. Now, what I've done is I've gone over to elements, and there is a lot of assets here, right? There is a lot of stuff, and which can get really overwhelming. So what I am specifically looking for is I'm going to be looking at icons and then maybe a couple of shapes. Okay, so
and they're good too because they're,
they're scalable.
Yeah, vectors, baby.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah. But
make them big, make them small, never lose quality.
Yep. Change the thickness of the line by just making it bigger and smaller and squishing it. All sorts of goodness. Now, what I'm going to start off with is I'm going to start off with a shape. So I'm just going to scroll down to shapes and I can hit view all there, or I can use this bar across the top and I can just hit shapes. Now, there is the new tool to draw a shape. So if I'm doing a flower, and look, it says flowers because it knows that Mother's Day is coming. So it's probably adding that in there. Now, I didn't actually check this before I logged in, but what Adobe just generally does start to do is they do start to add in some tools that are themed around holidays, events that are coming up, that sort of thing. So it does not surprise me that they've got flowers right up there. But what does every flower that you're going to put on display need? It needs a stem. So let's just start and make a little stem. Now I am using a mouse.
Gorgeous.
Kind of.
Because I'm an interactive panel guy from a long time ago, and I'm always spruiking them. This draw shape thing with a canvas on an interactive screen with fingers drawing. Oh, it's so good.
If you had a stylus and a touch screen set up rather than a literal mouse, well, not a literal mouse, squeak. No, calm down. It's okay. If you
it's a fluid language. It's fine.
Yeah, if you wanted to, you could absolutely, and you had access to a touch screen. That's the other trick. You could absolutely start and get a much cleaner finish, but I'm just going to use the mouse here because I'm not trying to win any art gallery prizes. It's all good. My ego will survive. You can play with the border thickness a little bit. There is also, when it says border style, that does also actually translate to actually the kind of line that you're going to see on your picture. And if you get in right in close, you can actually see that's a little bit more bubbly, random dots, triple lines, dashes. But I'm going to go for solid with this one because that works well for me. And I go done. And now I have my shape. And now I can actually adjust the size of that shape. And most importantly, because I'm making this, say for instance, my target audience is I work in primary for the purpose of this demonstration. And I am making a handout that is going to be specifically for my students to cut out and assemble their own flower for their own parent person on this particular holiday. So I'm going to go around and I'm going to create a cutting border for them to try to guide them about where to cut, because maybe they're not in a group where their fine cutting skills are going to serve them to be able to get that stem nice and narrow. If we're going to be cutting this out to say maybe glue onto a card, we've got some more surface area for the glue, maybe. So I'm going to go through, and now that I've created an exterior border, I'm now going to turn that into a dash, and now I have my cutting line, and then I have the line for the colouring in of the actual asset, right? Yeah. So if that's going to be a green stem for a flower, we can print off a class set of these. They can colour them in green with whatever medium they're going to be using, and then they can cut out around that dotted line. I'm just going to hit the done button so I don't lose my changes. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have a quick look and see under shapes what flowers are available. Because if this is supposed to be a colouring in sheet,
oh, I like that one.
It'd be nice to have some options, right? And if the whole idea is giving people options, then maybe I don't want it to have a grey infill. Maybe I just want it white. So I'll go in and add that in. And now I've got that. Might make it so it's going to be a multi-dimensional flower. So you can have shapes of different sizes, same shape, but different uses. And then, of course, once we go back in, I need my obligatory dotted line of recommended cutting, don't I? So I need to go around. And you see, you don't have to draw your line first and then change the line type. You can just quickly go around the edges. Now, obviously, you could do this for any sort of activity where there's going to be tactile printouts or whatever. If you're planning on creating a cutout, you can do what I'm going to do in a little moment, and you can go looking for some icons, and then you can create a cutout line around those. All you need is a little bit of patience with yourself and a reasonably steady hand, and you can get these lines done fairly quickly. And then once it's in your library of bits and pieces that you've prepared for classes gone by, you can just pull them out and reuse them, share them with your colleagues. People say, I have this idea, but I can't find a good resource. I've Googled, or I've used my search engine of choice.
I love this, Erin. I mean, there's many reasons why I love this, but the number one reason is this: you, as the creator, you've made this, you own it. It's yours. It's not something you've had to trawl through another sort of subscription resource site to find something that's close, that needs modifying, that has limited rights, that's just a headache for the librarian. You just went and built it. And that's so powerful. The other reason I like it is it's a very, very soft entry and scaffolding into all of your other creative apps. You know, you've got your layers down the right-hand side. You've got vectors. We're working with vectors. You're using some keyboard shortcuts there. Any of those things that work in the, you know, the big apps, it all is starting off here in Express, which just
and this is all done. with a standard computer screen on a browser. You don't have to install any software. As you could just see in the background just there, and I'll just do it again. I found a shape that I like because we're still using shapes, right? I press Control C to copy it, and I press Control V to paste it. You can also right click and you can hit the duplicate button and it makes copies for you that way, right? Now, because this is a shape, and as you mentioned, is the vector factor. Say that 10 times fast without getting yourself in trouble. You can convert the line of this object if you do not feel like you are confident in having a steady hand.
Stop it. How did you do that?
You can so easily. Let's do that again once more with feeling. Control Z, undo, undo. We take our flower. Let's find our flower again. There's our flower. Oh. I don't like that it's grey because it's a colouring in sheet. So I go and find the fill and I make it white. So now it's colour-inable. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to make it bigger. I am going to hit the duplicate button this time, so I'm not using sneaky keyboard shortcuts, as Ben so rightly pointed out that I automatically did because I'm so used to doing it in my own day-to-day driver.
But Erin, that's where you want your people to be. You want to get
reflexively
the tools out of the front of your brain into the lizard brain. So you're just creating, and that's what you're doing, and it's cool to watch.
And I'm not feeling confident with the steadiness of my hand, so I've made a duplicate of my flower. I select the one that I'm going to turn into a dotty line. I look at my border styles. I either scroll across or I hit the view all button and I go dotted line. And now the one that I duplicated, the copy, will now sit above that on the layers. So to get a dotty line for students to cut around, all I have to do is just make it a little bit teeny tinier. And then it just sits neatly within the edge of that border. So like my hand-drawn one's pretty good. I'm pretty proud of myself. It's all right. But this one is just that little bit more uniform. It's not going to be perfect.
Wow.
Obviously, it gets quite close on those edges. But, you know, we're doing a colouring in sheet for making flowers. We're not going too crazy with perfection is an illusion. Perfection is aspirational. So the only other thing I'm going to do is find some icons. So let's see what icons we have in the flower space, because there might be something that's a little bit more asymmetrical. Oh, see, that's pretty. That's nice. A nice one. Look at that one. So we can add that. Now let's see, because it is an icon and it is not a shape, we do not have the same options for the lines that we did with the other one, right? Whereas we could convert that and put the dotted lines there. We now, with this one, would have to go, okay, well, we've done that, but, you know, we now have to go back to shapes because that's where the draw shape tool is. And I want my dotty line. And then I'll just quickly do a little bit of a loop-de bordery loop and hand draw that dotted line around the outside edge, right? And boop, there it is. It is easy as that to make a sheet. Oh, we need a leaf. That's what we need. We need a leaf. Oh, and I hit cancel instead of save, so it got rid of my dotted line. No, but that's okay. Moving right along, I can quickly pop it in again later. There's some leaves. Beautiful, lovely, spectacular. Let's get that leaf. And I think all flowers need at least 1 or 2 leaves. So give me 1, 2. And then because we have got, again, it is an icon, hit Control C on your keyboard, Control V on your keyboard to get more than one. And then we go back into draw shape, view all, dotted, and scribbly, 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 scribbly around. If I want to get really fancy after I make sure I hit done, there we go. I don't have to draw that line around the other leaf. No, no, no. What I can do is I can go, well, I've already drawn it around one leaf and the other leaf is exactly the same. So what I'm going to do is I am going to, what's it doing there? Ah, same dotty dot. Same dotty dot. That's okay. I can duplicate my dots and I can move them around. So here we go, copy and duplicate. Now I don't need dotty dots everywhere, do I? But what I can do is I can just, where is that trimming tool? Right click. No, can I
might
not
be able to
trim?
Well,
Remove
different things
background.
you might be
Where
able
is
to
that
just
tool gone? Because there's my leaf. That's what I want.
Yeah.
Right? That's what I want. That's the overall effect that I want. So where is the ability then to go in? Resize.
Might be just a pixel thing, I think.
Have to have the option. There was a thing where I could crop an object, but I can't seem to put my hands on the actual. Has it moved? Has it just been that long since I've used it? I'm willing to cop up to having a bit of a brain blank.
It's not jumping out at me too. I mean, I think that it's how long do we spend finding the solution, or do we
just move on?
Or just, it's not so much that, it's like, do we I can see what happened is because you did the dotted line on the leaf
for both,
and the flower at the bottom, it put them on the same layer.
It did, which is totally cool and fine. But usually there is the option, and it was something I was going to show, where you can just crop a shape and remove elements of it.
I certainly remember it in photos, but I can't for the life of me figure out why it's not there tonight, or whether it's because I reckon if you chucked a photo on that page and clicked it, you'd get your crop marks up. But
yeah, absolutely. Not that I'm going to ruin my perfectly lovely colouring in sheet by going too crazy with that. So what I'm going to do to make sure that my lines stay with my pictures is I'm going to do a little bit of grouping now to make sure that I can move those around the page just a wee bit without losing the structural integrity of some of my assets that I've created, right? Because that way madness lies. And then that way I can move my stem over a little bit, and that's a good spread. So now for Mother's Day, you've got to make your own flower activity sheet. Some of them are a little bit more free-form than others. And if I'm not a huge fan of any other little elements, I can, of course, go in there at any time and make a few little changes to the way the dotted lines appear and that sort of thing. And otherwise, once I'm ready to go, I can either hit the download button, either in PNG, JPEG, or PDF, which is best for printing. It's not wrong insofar as PDF is best for printing. You can then email it, you can upload it. If you're on a work computer, obviously, hopefully downloads are enabled for you. And then you can also share it. You can share it with a colleague. I could share it with Ben. I could make it a template that I can share with other people like this right now. And then I can just save that to wherever I want to save that to and create a public template link like so. And it will do that for me in the background. And then I could share that link with you lovely people, and you could completely start from scratch. You can remix mine and make your own. You can do whatever you want to with it, but it's very basic, but it now exists. Before it was just a blank page. And that is the beauty of just getting a little bit comfortable with trying something new in a tool like this.
Erin, well done. Great share. Thank you.
So I'm going to pop that in the chat so we have that for later.
Yes.
So I think that is where we're going to call it for this evening, because otherwise Ben and I get really excited and we could go on and on and on and on about different applications for different things and how you could go about stuff.
That's it.
All of our lovely little pet creative outlets. So I'm Erin Raethke. This is Ben Eyles.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you so much. And as getting late, as you can tell, I'm not used to being up this late. So we are going to say goodbye for now. Yes, straight to bed. Straight. into bed. So thank you so much for joining us. If you stay tuned onto the channels, we were going to be advertising the next time we're going to be doing a live stream or a workshop or a live stream followed by a workshop or whatever we end up doing in the future. We will be keeping you posted on our socials about what we have coming up. Thank you so much for joining us, and good night, take care, and we have to figure out a sign-off
and
phrase
drive
or something.
safe.
And drive safe. No, thank you very much for joining us. Have a beautiful night, and we'll see you all soon.
And goodbye.